Okay, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, how often do you go out? Motzei Shabbos. Every night? Once a week? Who said once a week?
Based on your advice.
Your wife? Is it true? Almost?
Come on.
I'm done. I'm finished. I don't have to say another word. That's it. He wins. Really? How long is it? Okay. And how long has this been?
2 weeks.
2. And how is your marriage?
13 years.
13 years. 13 years married, and you've been going out now for 2 weeks. And I see. Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. I'm going to try to do this without reverb, and I'm going to. Okay. I'd like to share with you this evening something that. Yeah, I'm going to compete. This is it. This is the reason why. Half of the reason why marriages are toast today, because this device will destroy your marriage. It'll destroy your parenting. It'll destroy your shalom bayis. Can I ask a favor? I don't know if you guys noticed. On this device, there's a thing called an off. Have you ever seen that? An off switch? Mine used to say goodbye when I shut off. Could I trouble you to shut it off? Is that possible? People get nervous. Oh, shut it off. Oh. I had one couple. It's not a joke. I had one couple. It took me months to convince them to go out. Months. They finally agreed to go out, and this was the condition. There could be no phones, no smartphone. So after they went out, I asked the fellow, "How was it?" And his answer was, "It was." I said, "What do you mean? Why?" Well, she had the BlackBerry. Do you know the BlackBerry, the old BlackBerry? She figured out a way to reconnect it so she could text her friends on the date. Okay, so anyway, don't. Okay. All right. I'm very uncomfortable with the sound here. I don't know why, but I'm going to stand in a place where it won't bother me. Thank you. I'd like to share with you one idea for the guys, one idea for the women, and one idea for both. So let's begin. Avram Avinu lifts his eyes up and he sees on the horizon 3 people. He thinks that they're regular people. He doesn't know they're malachim. He runs out, bows down full face in the ground and says, Al na tavar me'aldoni, please do not pass. He brings in these 3 people. He sits over them like a waiter as he serves them a lavish meal. These 3 individuals were malachim, malachei sharetz, and at a certain point they ask the following question. Ayeh Sarah Ishtecha, where is Sarah, your wife? Now Rashi is bothered by the problem. That's not really appropriate. Here the man offers you food, he offers you drink, he brings you into his house, and you ask him where his wife is. Says Rashi, they asked that question for one reason, because they wanted him to respond, Hinehi ba'ohel, she's in the tent. She's a tsanua, she's modest. She's not out in the limelight. She's not out there. They wanted him to respond by saying that she's a tsanua, kedei l'chavava be'enei baila, to make her more beloved in his eyes. So here's the question. These are malachei sharetz, and they asked something that's inappropriate, that's really not right. And why did they do it? To make her more beloved in his eyes. Now that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're dealing with Avram Avinu, who's 99 years of age. We're dealing with his wife Sarah, who's 90. And they had the most impeccable marriage you can imagine. The Rishonim tell us, would you like to know the closest bond? The Maral says, never in the course of history was there a connection between husband and wife as there was between Avram and Sarah. So why did the Malachim feel that they had to actually make her more beloved in his eyes? Why did they feel they had to act in a way that's inappropriate to do that? And I'd like to share with you what I believe the answer to this question is. And to do that, let me share with you first a little business advice. If you have a successful business, bring in talent. And bring in accounting talent, bring in talent in marketing. Whatever you do, bring in various people, but don't bring in a partner. Why? Because almost every partnership, it'll be 5 years, it'll be 10 years, but almost every partnership ends, and typically it ends badly. Why? Because usually it'll be 5 years, it'll be 10 years. I want to take the business this way, you want to take it this way, I want to do this, you want to do that. And if you look around, you'll see almost every partnership ends after a certain time period, and rarely does it end well. Here's an observation. A business partnership is a 9 to 5. You're asking 2 men to go into business 9 to 5, and it's rare that it'll last more than 5 or 10 years. Do you realize what a marriage means? Your entire life, from morning to night, how you raise your kids, how you bring them to school, how you raise a culture, everything that you're going to do in your family. How do we get this? I have ADD, attention deficit disorder. I get very, is it any, no, not you, there's the noise in the background. Oh, I'm sorry, is it possible? I'm sorry, I feel terrible, I'm sorry. But that's my ADD. Okay, the odds, okay, we gotta get this 1 second. Okay, we're going to do this again. Here we go. Do you know what it's like for your kids, by the way, to be in school when this happens? I'm telling you, I'm the classic poster boy ADD. Okay, so how do you expect a marriage to succeed? Meaning, a marriage is asking a husband and wife to join together everything that they do from morning to night and do it in peace and shalom. But here's the point. You're supposed to meet a young man, a young woman, and you're supposed to make a decision for life, and you're supposed to live in harmony and peace forever. And if you think about it, not a single marriage should succeed. As a matter of fact, every marriage should end badly, because if you don't think it's difficult, I'll share with you the most difficult part about any marriage. A marriage is a husband and wife joining together. Men and women are different. They're different in the way they think, they're different in the way they act, they're different in the way they approach things, they're different in their attitudes. Men and women are so different that you'd assume they're from different planets. You'd assume they're from different cultures. The odds of taking a husband and wife and bringing them together and asking them to live in peace and harmony for any length of time should never succeed. Yet, obviously Hashem wants them to succeed. And Hashem created various tools that will allow a couple to bond, to connect, and I think people usually make a big mistake. The first tool that usually begins a marriage is something called infatuation. Infatuation is when the guy comes back after the date and he goes, ooh, she's perfect. He goes, oh. Now, by the way, I want you to know something. When we were recently engaged, this is, Baruch Hashem, I'm married 32 years. Happily, my wife isn't here to argue, but we were newly engaged. And I heard my wife, then my Kala, on the phone with a friend of hers, and it sounded something like this. I know it can't be. I know no one's perfect, but I'm telling you, he's perfect. Now, I'm standing there saying to myself, I'm not going to be the one to tell you this, but you're in for a rude awakening. Now, why is it that the woman looks at the husband, newly married, wow, he's perfect. He looks at her, she's perfect. And then, very shortly thereafter, most couples make the first critical mistake. Either he or she, sometimes both, wake up maybe 6 months after marriage, maybe a year after marriage, and they say these words, oh my goodness, I made the biggest mistake in my life, I married the wrong one. They didn't marry the wrong one. That infatuation wore off. Infatuation is kind of like this neurochemical explosion. It goes off in your chest. And by the way, they study this, and they say the same changes in the neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, various neurotransmitters, same effect, falling in love, as cocaine use. That same ooh high, but it has a very short shelf life. It's 6 months, it's a year, and then it wears off. And that's the first mistake that most couples make. After about 6 months, after about a year, they say the words, oh my goodness, I made the biggest mistake. And it's true they're making a mistake, but not the one they're thinking of. The mistake they're making is that's when the couple have a choice. They either start working on the marriage, either start working on the bond, or forget about it, they're going to be toast. And my friends, this is probably the biggest mistake I've seen, and I've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of couples, and I've seen this all the time. I get the call and it sounds like this. Rabbi, thank you very much for taking the call. I have a problem. What's the problem? It's my husband. What's the problem? Well, he's a good guy. He's responsible. He's a good father. He earns a good living. So I said, it sounds pretty good. What's the problem? The problem is I don't love him. I don't love him. I don't love him. So what do you say? What do you say when you get the call? Anyone know what you're supposed to say? So I've been there before. I've gotten the call before. So I asked that critical question that I always ask when I get that call. Madam, tell me, last month, how many times did you and your husband go out? But I don't mean go out to a bar mitzvah or to a wedding or to your mother-in-law. How many times did you and your husband go out on a date to spend time together, to connect, to bond? And I know what the answer is. The answer is, we didn't. Okay? How about the month before? 0. The month before that? 0. How about the month before that? 0. And I know where this is going because I've been there and I've done that. And I say to her, madam, it's very simple. Do you know what your problem is? You are 2 ships in the night passing. But you're not connected, you're not bonding, and if you don't spend time together as a couple, if you don't bond, if you don't really invest in your relationship, guess what? You're going to be distant, you're going to be apart, and I've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times, where there's nothing wrong with the marriage other than they're in different worlds. Would you like to know, I believe, what Rashi is sharing with us? The essential ingredient for any successful marriage is that connection, is that bond of love. And the Malachim said to Avram, where is Sarah? Why did they ask that? So he should love her more. To make her more beloved. Why? Because that is the essence of the successful marriage. We have one guy who goes out once a week. You know why? You know why he goes out once a week? You know why you go out once a week? Because he's smart. He's brilliant. Do you understand? Gentlemen, your life will be so much better. You'll be so much happier. A happy wife is a happy life. And I can't say this more than I can't say this more clearly enough. Do you understand that women crave and need this relationship? Find me a single woman's magazine that doesn't have 13 ways to improve your relationship. How to make your husband love you more. Right? Do you find me a single man's magazine with those kind of issues? Do you ever see that? You ever see that? Well, why is that? Here, I'll make it more clear. When does the average woman begin thinking about her marriage? I have 4 daughters, and I'll tell you. Anyone know, when does the average woman start thinking about the nature of a relationship, her marriage? I'm sorry? At 11, 12. By 13, a young woman has a very clear image of what her marriage is going to be like. When does the average guy start thinking about his marriage? 5 years after the wedding. But why? Why? I'll tell you why. Because women crave the relationship. They need it. And gentlemen, if you don't take your wife out, I'll say it politely, you're not being so smart. What I mean is you're dumb. But I mean you're not being as smart as you could be. Why? Because she needs it, she craves it, and she'll say, no, I don't need it, I'm too busy. By the way, I get so much pushback. When I say this, I have this radical, crazy idea. I tell couples to go out once a week, and whenever I say that, come on, once a week, that's crazy. Who could afford it? My husband's too busy, I can't afford the money. I have one simple solution, one simple answer to that big issue. Anyone know what my answer is? I have a very simple answer. How much money does it cost for alimony? How much money does it cost for a divorce lawyer? How much money does it cost to run 2 households? If you do the math, you'll quickly see it's much, much cheaper to go to Laffa Grill once a week, or go anywhere. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is not against Laffa Grill. Laffa Grill is great. Can I ask a favor, though? I'm sorry, can I ask a favor? I get very distracted. Where's the boss? Wait staff off the floor. Please. I'm sorry, my distraction goes. I'm sorry. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, do you notice that you're sitting 2 couples here? Never, ever, 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 ever go out on a double date. Don't ever do it. Anyone know why? I'm sorry, what?
That's not comparing.
Okay, ladies get this one much quicker than guys do. Ladies, you ever have a bad hair day? You know, your makeup's drippy and whatever. Okay, you ever notice that when you're going out with your best friend and your husband and their husbands, she's looking her best and she's always happy and she's always smiley because you're going out and it's great, but you're not always that way. And if you'd like to cause your husband to force him to compare you to your best friend, make sure you double date. Don't do it. It's just not wise. Go out as a couple, spend time together as a couple. But what I mean by that is, how do I say this? You're supposed to be a couple in love. You're supposed to be lovers. You're supposed to be romantic. You're supposed to spend time together. You're supposed to send texts, notes. You're supposed to do the things that a couple in love does. And gentlemen, this one's on you. Why? Because your wife craves it, your wife needs it, and if you don't do it, you're going to suffer dramatically. The Stipler says if a woman doesn't feel loved, he writes in an Ageres, he writes if a woman doesn't feel loved, it's close to pikuach nefesh, it's close to danger of life. Okay, that's the guy's side. Now, what do women have to work on? Anyone know? Texting that to your best friend? That's smart. Good move. Good move. Okay, anyone know what the ladies have to work on? Anyone know? Okay, I'm sorry? Nothing? Nothing. Okay, here we go. Exactly, they're perfect. Okay, here we go. I want to share with you a scenario. A couple are walking down the street. They're walking and he trips. And she says, are you okay? Are you okay? Okay. Same couple walking down the street. He trips. Clutch! What's wrong with you? What's the difference between case 1 and case 2? Case 1, they're newly engaged. Case 2, they're married for 3 years. Ladies, don't correct your husband. Don't improve your husband. Don't make your husband better. Women have this incredible need. By the way, I believe that most women, when they're walking down that aisle, have a 10-point home improvement policy in mind, and that guy under the chuppah is going to be the recipient of that 10-point home improvement routine. Now, what happens? She gets married. Now, on the Sheva Bracha, she, chilled, okay. But as soon as they settle down to married life, she begins her home improvement policy. First of all, the shoes are going to go, and those dumb jokes, and that tie, and the way, and she starts improving her husband. And guess what happens? Anyone know? He doesn't get all warm and fuzzy. Oh, thank you, dear. That's so sweet of you. He gets offended, and he gets irky, and he gets like distant and cold. But why? You're only doing it because you love him. You're only doing it because you want to improve him. And ladies, I want you to hear very carefully what I'm saying to you. If you do that to your girlfriend, it's wise, it's smart, it's good. As a matter of fact, if you had something that you could do for your girlfriend and you didn't, you'd feel creepy, you'd feel badly. But if you do that for your husband, you know what you're going to do? You're going to engender very, very lucky feelings. Why? Because in a guy's world, offering unsolicited advice is not smart. Imagine a guy is changing a tire, and you walk by and say, hey buddy, you could do it a little better if you did this. You're asking for a fist fight, right? I mean, you're gonna hey, I didn't ask you. If I needed advice, I would have asked you. When you offer your husband advice, when you help him, when you improve him, when you make him better, you know what you're doing? You're causing a lot of damage to your marriage. Now, I want you to know something. I went on this topic once, on, and it was, Torah Anytime was live streaming it. And a guy brought me his phone after, because his wife was watching it at home, and his wife texted him in the middle of the shiur, and he brought me his phone to show me what his wife texted while I was saying this. This is what the text read. Rabbi, I hear what you're saying, but my Rebbitzin taught me that our mission in life is to improve our husband. That's our tafkid. I'm not an Eishes Chayil, I'm not an Ezer Kenegdo unless I make him better. So I asked, okay, tell me, your Rebbitzin, husband is a divorce attorney, a towing for gittin. Your Rebbitzin didn't, well, I hope she didn't say that. But ladies, let me make it as clear as I can. The more you're going to try to improve your husband, change your husband, make him different, I guarantee you're going to damage the relationship. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this one's for both. Do you know one of the saddest things is that we become experts at what our spouse does wrong. We become experts. You ever notice it? I'll pick it up right away, immediately. And why is that? Because each human being has a different temperament, a different nature, a different way of doing things, and my spouse is going to be different. And automatically it's going to be, come on, if you did it this way, it'd be so much better. And I know it, and I get it, and I can't help but help. And the more you help your husband, I guarantee the more you're going to get, not good stuff back. So this is it. If you do these two things, most of your marriage will be beautiful. You go out, gentlemen, you shower your wife with attention. You treat her as if she is your bride, your princess, the one you love. And ladies, you treat your husband with respect. And the Rambam says it's a guaranteed formula for success, except one problem. One problem. The problem is that I judge my spouse by my standards. Let me explain to you what I mean. A guy comes home from work at 6:30, newly married, and he says to himself on the way home, wow, Baruch Hashem, I married such a sober, sane girl, so grounded, not one of these flighty dames. Oh, thank God. He opens the apartment and he sees his wife up on the chair. What is it? What is it? They went, what? What? There! It's a cockroach! What? A cockroach there. He walks over to the cockroach and you can come down from the chair now. Okay, scene 1. Scene 2, 2 weeks later. He gets a call at work. Dear, come home, please. What is it? Please come home right away. What? There are 2 of them. 2 of them. Huh? There are 2 of them. Please come home. He hangs up the phone and steam starts coming out of his ears. She wants me to leave work. She wants me He gets in a car, comes to the department. She's up on the chair. There. He goes over to him. I hope you're satisfied. He gets back in his car, drives back to work. Ladies and gentlemen, who was correct? Was she right? After all, she's scared, she's afraid, she calls the husband. Was he right? What do you mean? I'm in the middle of work. The important thing, this stupid cockroach. Who is right? Anyone? Wrong question. The minute you ask that question in a marriage, you are in deep, serious trouble. You could ask that question in business. You could ask that question in a court of law. If you ask who's right in your marriage, you're going to pay the price. And let me explain to you what I mean. Let's reverse things around a little bit. Let's assume it wasn't a cockroach. Let's assume he was home alone. His wife was away at work. And instead of a cockroach, it was a German Shepherd in the apartment. How calm would he be? Not so calm at all. Now again, ladies and gentlemen, I have 4 daughters, 2 sons. I don't know why it is, but girls tend to be afraid of bugs. Matter of fact, all of my daughters, whenever a bug comes around, they ask one of their baby brothers, and they just have to make sure he doesn't eat the bug. But I don't know why they're afraid of bugs. Girls are, guys aren't. But here's the point. When she's up on the chair, she's really, really scared. And in her world, it's a frightening moment. But you see, what he's not doing is, he's not recognizing her reality. But don't worry about it, because she's not recognizing his reality either. Because when she's up on the chair and he crushes those bugs and he says, I hope you're satisfied, what does she say to himself? What a creep. What a lousy, selfish creep. I'm up here on the chair. I'm scared. I'm terrified. And he knows it. And he doesn't care. And you know what both of them are doing? They're making the big mistake that we all make. I judge you by my reality. My experience is my experience, but my experience doesn't dictate reality. The way you feel is the way you feel, the way I feel is the way I feel, and the minute you judge your spouse by your experience, and the minute your experience defines reality, you're not going to be a good spouse because you're going to be very unfair. And this goes for husbands, this goes for wives. I can't tell you how many times I deal with a couple, and you'll hear, oh, by the way, one second. Anyone here a marriage counselor? Oh, shucks. I get this all the time. I get the couple that come into my office, and I do the first question. Who do I ask first? I love this one. I ask her first. If I ask her first, I know what the answer is. If I ask him first, I know what the answer is. So let's ask him first. How's your marriage? Anyone know what his answer is going to be? Yeah, good. Baruch Hashem, good. Ask the wife, how's the marriage? It's horrible, it's terrible. Wait, you guys married like to each other? Why is that? Why is it? I can't tell you how many times I have women complain, my marriage is terrible, my husband's a creep, he's so selfish, he's so loud, and the guy says, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't even know what she's referring. Why is that? Anyone know the great secret? So I'll share with you the great secret. The great secret is women need to connect, they need to bond, they need to feel that the husband loves them. And if they don't feel that, they're going to be miserable. And gentlemen, that's your job to communicate that message. However, again, there's a little counterpart to that, because I don't want the guys saying, oh, Rabbi Shafier saying it's all my fault. It is all your fault, but it's also your wife's fault. One second, let me explain what I mean by that. Okay. Anyone here ever get into a fight? Husband and wife? No. Okay, nobody. Okay, that's what I thought. But imagine you had a friend of yours who got into a fight once in their marriage with their spouse. I guarantee the husband and the wife are each saying to themselves very different things. They're each singing a very different song. You know what she's singing? He doesn't love me. He doesn't care. He just doesn't love me. And you know what he's saying? Why is she so darn disrespectful? I don't speak to her that way. I don't open a mouth like that. You have a problem, you speak like a mensch. Why is she opening a mouth? Anyone know what I'm talking about? I'll explain to you why this is. It is my firm belief that every woman walks around for the beginning of years of a marriage, let's say the first 35 years of a marriage, insecure about the love in the marriage. You ever see the little girl with that daisy pulling out the petals? He loves me not, he loves me not. I think most women, again, the first 30, 35 years of the marriage, walk around with that sort of sense. And the minute there's that fight, what happens is, immediately in her mind, she says the words, he doesn't love me, he doesn't care, he doesn't love me. But that's not the song that he sings. The song that he sings is, she doesn't respect me. Why is that? Because men and women have different needs. A woman needs to know that she's loved, needs to know that she's cherished. If a woman knows that she's cherished, 90% of your shalom bayis problems will disappear. And really it should be easy, except a lot of times women make it difficult for the husbands to like them, let alone love them, because they say things and do things that make him say very clearly, she doesn't respect me. And ladies, if you treat your husband as you do your girlfriends, even with the best intentions, guess what? It's going to be very rough and it's going to be very hard on him. And when you understand these two principles, that she needs to feel loved and he needs to feel respected, I think shalom bayis becomes a much, much different situation. If your marriage is good and you want to make it great, if your marriage is okay and you want to make it really nice, or even if your marriage is bad, you can change it radically. But you have to understand the needs of yourself, the needs of your spouse, and more than anything, you have to work on the marriage. And all of the wantings, and by the way, anyone here have kids? What is the most damaging thing to a marriage? What's the single most damaging thing to any marriage? Kids. Isn't it true? You will not have time. They're always there. And I don't want to say, all right. Anyone have more than one kid? 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids. I got 6. I can tell you the big secret. If you don't fight for your marriage, if you don't fight to make time with your spouse, your marriage will suffer incredibly. And the best investment you can make in your children's happiness, the best investment you can make in your children's success is having a successful marriage. And any woman who says, we're way too busy, I have to take care of my children, I have to spend time doing homework with them, they don't like when I leave, they don't like... Any time you hear a husband or a wife say that, you have to say to yourself one single message. The most important thing you could do for the success of your children is to have a good marriage. Because you see, when your marriage is solid, your children are being brought up in a healthy, wholesome environment. If your marriage is frayed and you start getting short with each other, I don't care what attention you're going to shower your kids with, the basis of everything that they're exposed to is shaky. And this part is easy. You just have to steal time. That means you have to set time to go out, you have to set time to spend together. And now here's one more radical thing. Besides going out once a week, what else do you do?
I don't do it, but I think you would say go out on vacation for once.
Go on mini vacations every 3 or 4 months. A mini vacation means a night or 2. And it doesn't have to be in the world of Astoria. It doesn't have to be flying to Italy. You take a place and you find time as a couple. What do you, every 3, 4, you mean every 3, 4 years? No. Every 30 years? No. Every 3, 4 months. But who's going to watch the kids? Who's going to? I guarantee, Rahman al-San, if someone was sick, someone would watch the kids. Rahman al-San, you got divorced, someone would watch the kids. You make time. And smart couples, by the way, this is one of those slogans. I got to borrow the slogan. Some couples go for marriage therapy. Smart couples take vacations. Oh, let me say that again. Some couples go for marriage therapy. Smart couples take vacations. Why? Because you have to bond, you have to connect, and if you don't spend time together, guess what? The relationship is going to fray, and you're going to fall apart, you're going to be distant, you're not going to connect. It's as simple as pie. All you have to do is remember what it was like when you were dating. When you were engaged, you were going out, you were showered your wife with attention, you were very respectful to your husband, then your prospective husband. All you got to do is imitate what you're doing there. I think what this Rashi shares with us is a fundamental concept. And that concept is that as much as Avram and Sarah had a beautiful marriage, the Malachim wanted to add more to it because there was 99% there could be more love in the marriage. The essence of a successful marriage is the relationship is love. And if there isn't love in the marriage, you're toast. But there has to be time. You got to spend time together. Gentlemen, that's your job. You have to take your wife out. Ladies, your job is you have to know what your husband's needs are. You have to be respectful according to what he needs. You can't judge him by your standards, and then everything's successful. Now, I want to take a question or two because I got to stop because otherwise I'm going to lose my... Anyone have any questions? Yes?
Are you aware of the book, The Five Love Languages?
Am I aware of the book, The Five Love? I am. Yes, I read it. Okay, that's an excellent book for some couples. There are definitely some couples who benefit from it a lot. And if you find it a good tool, use it, because it's definitely true. One thing for sure, working on your marriage. By the way, ladies, how many of you have read a marriage book in the past year? Gentlemen, how many of you have read a marriage book in the past 10 years? How about past 100 years? All I know is every woman has at least a bachelor's, maybe a master's in family counseling, marriage therapy, and every guy is... But why is that? Why is that? Because my husband's cold-hearted and he's a creep. That's why, right? By the way, this is really... I love this one. Men and women are somewhat different. Did I mention that? Okay. What is the single most important ingredient in a successful marriage? Single most important ingredient in a successful marriage? Listening. Smile. Single most, okay. So Ted, someone said money. Okay, Ted Houston is a psychologist working for the University of Texas, actually interesting enough, and he did a study, 265 couples he interviewed. And this is what he found. Almost all of them agree that communication is the key to a successful marriage. At least the women did. Not a single man said that. Of 265 couples, almost every woman said communication, open talking, I feel, and not a single guy said that. Why is that? So here's that great secret. Men and women are different. And gentlemen, you have to open your ears to listen to this. Women communicate. They have friends. Anyone have a best friend? Let's start with the women. You have is your husband? Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. So here, I was about 22 years of age, and I was learning. I asked Rabbi Harris or Shiva. I said, I have a lot of friends in yeshiva, a lot of buddies, but I don't have a best friend. I don't have a best friend. Rabbi Harris looked at me and says, who does? You ever notice every woman has a best friend? And likely she spoke to that best friend probably 3 times that day or twice the day before. And every guy also will tell you they have a best friend. And ask a guy, when did you last speak to your best friend? I can tell you guys have told me I spoke to my best friend 5 years ago. 5 years, and he's serious. Why is that? Because guys have friendships, guys have buddies, and they can have good buddies and good friends, but it's not the same communication, it's not the same need. I watched my daughters sit on the couch with their friends. I watched one of my daughters, she was in 8th grade. She was sitting on this end, her friend was sitting on that end, they were looking at each other, it looked like they were lovers. I mean, they were just like sharing, communicating. I had my daughter, by the way, my daughter came home one Friday, we were talking, and she said to me that 2 of her friends didn't come to school that day. I said, why not? She said, well, they were up late last night having a DMC. I said, what? She said, a DMC. I said, what's a DMC? Oh, come on, Alba, you know, a DMC. A deep, meaningful conversation. You know, on the phone till 3 a.m. they're talking. So, you know, they're too tired to come into school the next day. I taught boys high school for 15 years. Never once did I see 2 guys standing up late at night, communicating, sharing, connecting, bonding. Never once. Why is that? Because men and women are different. A woman needs to communicate, she needs to talk, but listen, gentlemen, carefully what I'm saying to you. That means you got to talk to your wife, you have to listen to your wife, and ladies, you also have to keep in mind, you got to keep your girlfriends, and not everything, you're going to bend your... I'm sorry, what? Am I wrong? I'm dead wrong, right? I'm wrong, because you love to talk, and she never does, right? Every once in a while I get a couple who do the exact opposite. But generally speaking, women thrive on communication, on talking. Guys usually, by the way, it's very interesting because the psychologist was studying couples. And this was a different psychologist. And he writes that when he would study couples, he found the most incredible things. He would talk to the guy and she would say something like, the best part about a marriage is we could just be watching TV together. We don't even have to talk or anything, and I feel so close to her at that moment. And then he'll talk to the woman, and we'll say, I want to hit him over the head with a baseball bat. He sits there, he doesn't say a word to me. He just watches TV. What's wrong with him? Wait a minute, you guys, you know why? Because you're in different worlds. That's right. Good morning, America. Men and women are different. And the minute you get that, and then you could bridge the gap, then you could connect, then you could be a husband and wife working together. But the minute you get like, that's my husband, that's my wife, you're in big trouble. Okay, but questions, thoughts, observations. I was supposed to ask questions. I wasn't supposed to talk. Who has any questions, thoughts, observations, for or against? None of the ladies have any questions on anything I said. Wow. Not in public. Yeah, by the way, I get the emails afterwards. This was in Brooklyn. I did a marriage seminar in Brooklyn. 5-part, 5 months of Shabbos in a row. And I spent 2 out of the 5 probably saying these words, don't change your husband. Don't change it, don't change your husband, don't change it. Okay, so afterwards, people ask questions. So I got the first question, they wrote it down on a card. First question is like this. Rabbi, what if we change our husband with a sense of humor? I said, no, don't do it. Next question, what if we change our husband with consequences? No, don't do it. Next, this is not a joke. Next question, what if we change our husband with positive reinforcements? No, don't do it. It's going to be bad. He's going to be insulted. He's going to be angry. Don't do it. So I thought I made my point, right? What's the very first email that I get? A question from a woman. Rabbi, if you don't want us to change through consequences, through positive, and so how am I going to change my husband? Oh, but then the kicker came. The next email comes, Rabbi, maybe it's that we don't agree with you. Maybe we disagree. So try it. See how that's working out for you. But okay, so don't change your husband, please. And don't, not with humor, not with sense of humor, not with consequence. Okay. What else? Any questions, thoughts, observations? Because we have your husband and wife are here. Yes? Okay, just accept the way it is. Okay, so can we be honest? What's the choice? I find most marriages are okay, and after about 20 years they suddenly change radically, and they improve greatly. You know why? Because the woman finally gets it. He ain't gonna change. He's not gonna change, he really won't. He's too stubborn, and whatever words you use, but he's not gonna change. And then she stops doing it. Some women stop, and the marriage improves. But that's not right? That's not fair, right? Right? Aren't I getting you angry? Aren't I mean? Isn't that rabbi acting in a not nice way, right? Okay. Wait, can you just put your arms down? I'm sorry. I'm making sense. Okay, I'll make it very clear. I don't mean to be nasty, but ladies, do you know how easy it is to demand that your husband should change? It's very easy. It's very easy for you to demand that he changes. Do you know how easy it's for him to change? I'll make it very clear. Let's be frank here. Anyone here ever on a diet? Any woman here on a diet? Sometimes. Okay, I don't know a single woman who's not permanently on a diet. It's only after the first kid, after the third kid for sure. Okay, I've gone to Weight Watchers with my wife on multiple occasions. It's a full diet plan, a nice nutritional... Why don't you just attain your ideal weight and maintain it. Ladies, how many here are at their ideal weight today? Why not? Just change. Stick to the diet. Stick to the diet, hit your ideal weight, and be there. And don't tell me you don't care. Because every woman who passes that plate glass, by the way, I have a rule with a woman. Never walk between her and the plate glass window. Because she's always going to look at my fat. Like, don't do it, right? So don't tell me you don't care. So why aren't you at your ideal weight? What's the answer? Because change is very difficult. It's not easy. So the next time that you need your husband to change, the next time you're about to say, why don't you just look in the mirror and say, oh, I get it. Okay? Okay. Yeah, question. I'm sorry. Yeah. Now, the question, are you shy now? Now you're shy? Okay. Yeah. Sorry? Not possible to change. Correct. You know why, by the way, you know why you want your spouse to change? Most of the time, it's because I have a different temperament, a different nature than does my spouse. I had one guy, by the way, this is really sad. I had one guy whose problem, and he was really, really upset with his wife. She doesn't care about health. We have the kids, and she just doesn't care. I don't get her. Why doesn't she eat healthy? Why doesn't she serve the kids health food like I asked them to? And I had a tough time explaining to him. This guy wakes up 5:30 every morning, jumps into a freezing cold shower because he's one of those, he-men type, and he is a tremendous master of self-control. That's wonderful for you. Guess what? Your wife is not that nature. And if you're going to demand of your wife to be like you, well, guess what? It's not fair. Here, I'll make it very clear. Watch, 1 second. This morning, I had that same test that I have almost every Shabbos morning. Typically Shabbos, I get up very early, I learn, the house is silent, it's beautiful. And then later on, I'll bring my wife a coffee. She likes to have a coffee in bed. And this morning, it happened to me exactly as it happened for the past, I don't know how many Shabbosim. As I go into the refrigerator, I'm about to reach for the full whole milk. And I say to myself, oh, drat, I can't do that. Now, everyone knows that milk or creamer just makes the coffee taste much better. And I want to put that into my coffee, but the problem is my wife prefers skim milk. And it bothers me because I know how much better it tastes with half and half, or at least 4% milk, and I have to resist, and I have to put in skim milk into the coffee. Ladies, do you hear what I'm saying? Do you know why I have to do that? Because I like full fat milk, and my wife prefers skim milk. But that little reality is a huge, huge dose of understanding. That my reality is my reality, my experience is my experience, but my spouse has a different experience, a different reality, and my experience doesn't define reality. And realizing that and understanding that I want this to be this way, I want to be on time and my husband is late. I want it to be neat and he's sloppy. That's your experience, it's easy for you, it's not easy for him, and if you try to change him, it's not going to work, but it will wreck your marriage. Okay. Any other thoughts, observations, for or against? Okay, and when's the next time we're going out, folks? Tomorrow night, yeah, all right, tomorrow night. Lawful Grill, we're going to sell gift certificates, right? Huh? Seriously, folks, do me a favor. By the way, I do this marriage thing, I recently did it online. It's a 7-part marriage boot camp, and I hack about going out. And after the 7 weeks, I have a thing where each couple, I speak to them on the phone afterwards, and how many couples, I have stopped counting, and when he'll say something like, the marriage is bad, I say, okay, fine, how many times did you go out since we started the boot camp? 7 weeks ago we started, how many times have you gone out? Well, we're definitely planning on it. I'm definitely making real plans to go on. Okay, you know what I'm saying? We gotta sell gift certificates to Lawful Bar and Grill, right? Yeah.
Whoever wants it.
Whoever wants it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Chazak. If you want to hear more, the shmooze.com, there's a full marriage seminar, 12-part series on the shmooze.com or the Shmooze app or the podcast. And you can listen to more. Please support Chazak, great organization. I want to thank you and should have much success and much shalom bayis.